Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm making bechamel white sauce, the sauce that forms the base for wonderful sauces like cheese sauce or mushroom sauce, one of the 5 mother sauces, first published in 1651 by Pierre de la Varenne, dedicated to his friend Louis de Bechamel. Obviously the French have got a strong claim on the sauce's origin, where it was invented, but it actually first came to France from Tuscany in 1533 by a young lady known as Catherine de Medici. She brought a talented troupe of Tuscan chefs with her, and she introduced the wonderful creamy white sauce to her countrymen 120 years before it was officially published. I'm not really sure if I care about the history. All I want to do is make this sauce. Shall we have a little look and see exactly how we're going to do it? We're going to make almost a quart or a litre of white sauce. In a saucepan I've got about 30 fluid ounces of milk, along with an onion that I've studded with cloves. Take the sharp end of the clove and stick it in the onion, about 6 cloves to a small onion, and leave the fat end sticking out. That's what's known as a studded onion. Right, once that's in the milk, bring it to a boil, and once it starts to boil, switch off the heat and forget about it, put it to one side. In our main pot we want to melt a chunk of butter. Don't forget, all the measurements are in the description below. Once the butter has completely melted, we're going to throw in the flour, but please let me emphasize this isn't a rushed sauce. It's a very slow process. We want to end up with a smooth, lump-free, creamy sauce. So once the butter's melted, and we're on a low flame by the way, let's throw in our flour. And just mix the flour into the melted butter. We're on a low flame, don't forget. Once the white of the flour is no longer visible, that's when we've made a roux. A roux is what's known as a thickening paste. This method is used for lots of sauces and gravies. Once the white of the flour is no longer visible, it's time to increase the heat to a medium level and whisking constantly for 90 seconds only. We want to slightly cook out this roux. 90 seconds is plenty, and we need a medium heat for this step of the sauce. After 90 seconds, please switch the heat back down to a low setting, and let's add the first batch of milk. Milk's going to be added in 5 batches, by the way. So once you've added the first batch of milk, gently whisk the milk and the solids together until they start to come together. And then eventually the paste will start to leave the sides of your pan. Once it does, you can add a second batch of milk. And once again, whisk the solids into the liquids, all the liquids into the solids. And because our milk is hot, it's not taking us a long time to do it all. And eventually, that paste, claggy it may look now and quite lumpy and almost porridge-like, it then smooths itself out, eventually starting to leave the sides of the pan. That's the sign when we add our next batch of milk. And once again, whisk it in. You may need to slow down the whisking motion at this stage because it's so easy for it to end up going over the side of the pot. Believe me, I've made that mistake 1,000 times. So carefully whisk everything together, and you will notice the transformation in this mass that we're whisking. It's getting looser and looser, and as we whisk, the lumps are disappearing. Looking absolutely wonderful, starting to look really creamy now. Another splash of milk goes in. And I've used 5 batches because I want perfection. There are chefs out there who'd use 2 batches and they'd increase the heat, they'd whisk quicker. I want this to be perfect. I don't want any burnt bits. I want it to be perfect at the end. So, as before, whisk those solids into the liquid, and you will see before your very eyes the sauce beginning to form. Almost perfection. And yes, that's smooth because we've took our time and we followed all the rules. And I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but it's the same with so many different dishes we cook. If we follow a few instructions and observe a few special rules, we will always achieve perfection. And in this case, that flame has to stay on low. We must add our milk gradually, and we must keep whisking. And as you can see, I'm using a plastic whisk because I've got a non-stick pan. And that sauce is now sensational. It really is. Everything's come together. We've got a wonderful, thick, gloopy, velvety, smooth white sauce. I'm just going to throw in a pinch of nutmeg. If you've got fresh nutmeg, that's brilliant. I haven't. I'm just going to use a little pinch. About 1/8 of a teaspoon actually is perfect for the quantity of sauce we're making. Whisk that in. Don't forget, we're still on a low flame, by the way. So many pitfalls when the flame's too high. I'm now going to pop in a bit of salt and pepper. I'm using black pepper, by the way. If you prefer white pepper, brilliant. I know that classically white pepper would be used. I'm a big black pepper fan. And I'm using this sauce for a lasagna, so I don't mind using black pepper. I used about 12 to 15 twists of the grinder. I've whisked that in, and eventually, in about a minute or so, this sauce will start to bubble, even though we are on a low flame. Because don't forget, we've been using a very hot milk. Absolutely fabulous. It's so satisfying seeing the way the sauce comes together, the way the sauce develops into this wonderful, thick, creamy substance known as bechamel, or a white sauce. You can see it bubbling. It's pretty much ready. Now, if you want to leave the sauce for a few minutes, there's a few things you can do to stop a skin from forming. Because it's milk or cream based, you're going to get a skin form very quickly. Let's just have a little look at the end result. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. So if you want to stop a skin from forming, thumbnail pieces of butter laid very carefully on the surface of the sauce will prevent a skin from forming. Like any sauce using milk or cream, you're going to get a skin. All these little bits of butter, dots of butter if you like, are going to stop that skin from forming. And then when it comes to being used, if you want to use it half an hour later, just whisk in the butter. A lot of people use cling film, plastic wrap. I prefer the butter method. And once you're ready to use it, whisk in the butter. And in this case, I used the white sauce for a beautiful classic lasagna. And of course, I'll leave a link to the lasagna in the description below if you're interested. And that concludes our masterclass in how to make the perfect bechamel. And please, if you make it, please drop me a line. Anything you want to say, drop a line in the comments below, and subscribe if you haven't already. It's a great way of supporting us. Don't forget to smash the like button too, please, and tell your friends about the food revolution. I've got a lasagna to make. I'll see you very soon.